Mic check. Hello, hello, and we're back. Trying something a little different today. I've been meaning to learn Python for a very long time, and I picked up this book actually. Let me see, I don't have it here, but I picked up this book uh, online at Amazon. I got a physical copy of it, but I wanted to kind of stream it, so I figured, okay, let me try to find a PDF, and thankfully this is like a free book online, and you can get a paperback if you want to, if you pay for it. So I didn't actually know that, but now that I find out, I figured, hey, maybe it'd be a good idea to kind of stream this and see how far I can get with it. So I've already read like one or two chapters of this um, on my own. So I learned about what did I learn about? So I learned about, if you can see it on my screen, so I learned about the input function, learned about print. I also learned about while loops, and I was learning about for loops, I think. Hold on, there's a little chapter thing so we could see it from here. Or actually just go to the table of contents. So let's see. So yeah, I'm still planning on doing some gaming stuff, but I'm thinking about just doing that on the weekends and in the weekdays learning about Python, because to me personally at the moment right now Python is more important. So the earlier I can learn that, the better. Yeah, so I also learned about the string, integer, and float functions, uh, and Boolean values. But regardless of that, I think I'm just gonna start from chapter 1 and just kind of push down from there, just to kind of refresh my memory too, because some days I'm not able to study, and you know, it's last week I barely did anything, so I'm hoping that with streaming at least I'll be more consistent as well. So we'll see how it goes, but I'm just thinking about actually streaming every day and seeing how far I can go with it. So I'm just gonna kick it off and start reading chapter 1 with you guys on stream, and hopefully we can get to like chapter 3 or 4 by the end of it, but it is a very long book, so we'll see how it goes. Alrighty, so Python basics. And also let me know if the music is kind of loud, I can turn it down if need be. So alright. Python programming language has a wide range of syntactical constructions, standard library functions, and interactive development environment features. Fortunately, you can ignore most of that. You just need to learn enough to write some handy little programs. And that's kind of the basis of this book. Like, it's not teaching you to be a whole ass developer, but it's kind of teaching you to be up to speed with the basics of Python. And then you can go from there. And that's partly the reason why I got this book. Just so I can kind of learn the basics first. And then eventually, there's another book he's written, I think. What's his name? Al Sweigert. Yeah, he's written another book that's a little bit more in depth. But anyways, just gonna skim through this chapter since I've already read this book. Who is this book for? He basically says for everybody. Conventions. This book is not designed as a reference manual. It's a guide for beginners. Okay. What is programming? Television shows and films often show programmers furiously typing cryptic streams of ones and zeros. Well, yeah, it's not really that. Do this and that. Okay, all programs use basic instructions as building blocks. Here are a few of the most common ones in English. Do this and that. If this condition is true, perform this action. Otherwise, do that. So these are like the if-then statements, or sorry, if else. Do this, then do that. That's just, I guess, a basic program. Do this action exactly 27 times. So you could do while loops for that or for loops. Keep doing that until this condition is true. So this would be while loops. So I'm guessing this is for loops and this is while loops. While this is true, do this. You can combine these building blocks to implement more intricate decisions too. For example, here are the programming instructions called the source code for a simple program written in the Python programming language. Starting at the top, the Python software runs each line of code language. I just read that again. Starting at the top, the Python software runs each line of code. Some lines are run only if a certain condition is true, or else Python runs some other line until it reaches the bottom. So I'm gonna just lower the brightness of my lights because it's making it hard to read. Hopefully not too much where you can't see me anymore. Okay, yeah, that's fine too. Alright, so he has a little variable here called password file equals open secret password file dot text. So open this text file. Secret password equals password file dot read. Okay, I'm not familiar with that. Print enter your password. Type password equals input. If type password is equal to secret password, print access granted. So I'm getting password file dot read, just basically means read this file. I'm not entirely sure, but he'll tell us later. You might not know anything about programming, but you could probably make a reasonable guess at what the previous code does just by reading it. First, the secret password file.txt is opened. Okay, so it's open in number 1. And the secret password in it is read. Okay, yeah, so basically what I was saying. So it reads it. Then the user is prompted to input a password from the keyboard. Okay, so this is where you type it. This is the input function. These two passwords are compared, and if they're the same, the program prints access granted. Alright, so yeah, that's the is equal to sign, the two equal signs. Next, the program checks to see whether the password is 12345, and hints that the choice might not be the best for a password. That password is one that an idiot puts on their luggage. Alright. And then he goes into talking about Python, and then he talks a little bit about Sudoku and how Python is very similar because you're just solving puzzles by finding patterns. And also like how people perceive programming to be like extremely math based and algorithms and all of that, but really to do basic programming you just need to know numbers but not math really, as he explains right here. Let's see. Downloading and installing Python. I'm just gonna skip this section because I already have VS Code set up, so not really worth it for me to install Moo or whatever the hell he's using. Starting idle, interactive shell, installing third-party modules, how to find help. He just talks about Stack Overflow. Smart programming questions. He basically talks about tell your error, but don't only tell that, also tell what you're trying to do and share the entire code basically. So part 1, Python basics. Python programming language is a wide range of syntactical construction, standard library functions, and interactive development environment features. Okay, so that's what I read earlier. Entering expressions into interactive shell. So he just talks about how you could do basic math in the interactive shell, which I could pull up if you look at right here on the VS Code side. So if I just type Python 3, then I'm in the interactive shell. So if I do 2 plus 2, it will give me that. If I just 2, it will return 2. The previous example, 2 plus 2 is evaluated down to a single value. For a single value with no operators is also considered an expression, though it evaluates only to itself. That's shown here. So I'm guessing true will be true, false will be false. I think he talks about this in the Boolean section as well. Yeah. So it evaluates to itself if you only have one singular expression. You can you can use plenty of other operators in Python expressions too. For example, table 1-to-1 lists all the math operators in Python. So star star is exponent, so 2 to the power of 3, so that evaluates to 8, and we could check that on our side too. Yep, so that's exponent. Modulus remainder, 22 divided by 8 gives you a remainder of 6. So 22. Okay. And then if you do the math, 8 times 2 is 16, right? Because if you do 8 times 3, that's 24, that's more than 22. So 8 times 2 is 16, plus another 6 will give you 22. So the remainder of 8 times 2 being 16, the remainder is 6 if you want to get 22. So slash slash integer division slash float quotient. So I'm guessing that's yeah, that's just 2. And then division, it gives you the exact value. So slash slash will give you the nearest integer, which in this case is 2. And slash will give you the exact value with float, which is 2.75. Multiplication is multiplication, subtraction, and addition. So those are pretty self-explanatory. But the two I guess I previously struggled with was modulus and the integer division. But if you think about it a little bit, it makes sense. So here he does a little bit of problems. So we're just going to skip past this point and go to the next one. And he's just showing the order of operations, PEMDAS. And let's see, talking about syntax, can't have plus and a multiplication. Integer floating, Alice plus Bob. So I noticed this, Alice plus Bob, but I don't know in which like scenario this will be used. Maybe he'll look into that later on. Another thing, a string and an integer can't be concatenated, it can't be put together. However, you can multiply it, so Alice times 5, it will just print out Alice 5 times. Alice times Bob, well, you can't really multiply two strings. And it seems you can't also do a floating point either. String value and variables. A variable is like a box in the computer's memory where you can store a single value. If you want to use the result of an evaluated expression later in your program, you can save it inside a variable. So obviously variables are a huge part of Python. I probably sound like a rookie even saying that. But here he talks about how, so spam equals 40, so if you just type, we can do this. So spam equals 40. So if I were to just type spam, it will give me the value of 40. Eggs equals 2. So spam plus eggs equals 42. And spam equals spam plus 2. And then if we print spam, now the value is 42 instead of it being 40. So the previous value got overridden. A variable is initialized or created the first time a value is stored. The main thing we want to look at is number 3 because the other two are self-explanatory. The old value is forgotten, which is why spam evaluated to 42 instead of 40 at the end of the example. So it overrides to the latest value of the variable. Oh, and yeah, you can also store strings in there. So spam equals goodbye. Now the value has been overridden, so you won't get 42 now, you'll get goodbye, because that's the latest value. And then if we were to change this to hello, then spam will now equal hello, which is pretty self-explanatory. So here are the rules for variables. It can only be one word with no spaces. It can use only letters, numbers, and the underscore character. So, and it can't begin with a number. So he's showing correct variable names and then their counterparts which are incorrect. So if you want a variable to start with a number, you have to put underscore at the beginning. And no special characters. Your first program. Okay, this is the good stuff. So I already created hello.py. I know I'm skipping through the chapters a lot, but I'm basically just trying to go through the good stuff because I've already read most of this. But after chapter 2, I'm actually going to start reading the chapters because it will be brand new content for me as well. So I'll need to read that. Okay, so let's go ahead and type up this code, this program. Oops. Says hello and asks for my name. Also, for future, I've been thinking about it after Python. Like, I want to continue on with this kind of like a little series where I try to learn new things. They don't have to be coding related, it could be anything like philosophy. I'm really interested in philosophy. Or it could be like, I don't know, history. It could be anything. So, ask for their name. And if you're brand new to Python like me, the text after the tags isn't used for anything, it's just comments. So you could freely use those anywhere you like and it won't affect your program. So my name equals input, print, it is good to meet you, plus my name. So first it's asking what's your name. Input function allows you to type in your name, and then in the print field it will say the following string, and then it will attach this with it. Notice how we added a space right here, because if we don't add the space, I'll show you when I run this. So print the length of your name is, and then we can do print len my name, which will tell you the number of characters that is in the field. What is your age? Ask for their age. Equals input. You could attach all of this together, like my age equals input parentheses, like without any spaces, but if you want your code to look neater, it's always nice to add spaces and also indentation. But we'll just follow it exactly how he has it for now. You will be plus string int my age plus 1 plus in a year. That's the code written. So I'm gonna save this now. And now we can exit Python and then we can run this by using Python 3 hello.py. So what is your name? Zeno. It's good to meet you, Zeno. And then you can see that this is connected together. And the reason for that is because there isn't a space right here. So we'll add a space inside the quotations. And I'm gonna run that again. Zeno. And then you can see it's correct now. It is good to meet you. And then there's a space after the comma. The length of your name is 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. What is your age? 21. You'll be 22 in a year. Wow, this program is a genius. Um, but I guess this is just as basic as it gets. And you can already see like Python is more readable than other programming languages like JavaScript or whatnot. There's less syntax involved, which, you know, makes it really handy for beginner programmers who are just, you know, getting into coding and whatnot. People like me who are just trying to learn. Because I've tried learning with C, I've tried learning with Python, and after like an hour or two, I get really, really bored. Because it's just, it takes too long to just catch on to the basics. There's more theories for them or whatnot. I don't even know how to get into it, but Python is more seamless is basically what I'm trying to say. It's a lot easier to pick up. Um, and then you could see his example right here with Al. Um, you'll be 5 in a year, so for his age he just used 4. Okay, dissecting your program. So he discusses comments, print functions, input function, printing the user's name, the length function. So you can pass a len parentheses function a string value or a variable containing a string, and the function evaluates to the integer value of the number of characters in the string. I don't know, that kind of caught me off guard for a second because I was just thinking like for len you just declare a variable, but down here you have to declare a string, and within the string you have to declare int. Well, my age is an int. Okay, so you will. Okay, so what if I were to just do this? Would that still work? Can only concatenate string, not int to string. Okay, so that that's why he put the string there, because of Python's rules. Enter the following into the interactive shell to try this. The len function. Okay, so let's go to Python 3. Len. Hello. Oh, whoops. And sure enough, it shows 5. I'm not gonna write all of that, but len can also equal 0. So if you don't put anything in there, but if I put a space, that equals 1. Okay. And then he discusses what I just tried to do, removing the string and only running int. Just like those examples, len my name evaluates to an integer. It is then passed to print to be displayed on the screen. The print function allows you to pass it either it integer values or string values, but notice the error that shows up when you type the following into the interactive shell. Print I am plus 29 plus years old. And then the error is can only concatenate string to string. So string values can only go together with other string values. You cannot do string plus integers. You can only do string plus string. As he had shown, I'm not going to scroll all the way up, but he showed that earlier when he tried to add, like what was it, Bob plus 5 or something, and it failed. I guess it's the same concept. But now we know it applies to all integers. So string, int, and float functions. So string 29, so if you want to convert something to a string, then you just use str parentheses, and then you can concatenate all of it together. And he's just showing a bunch of examples of this at work. So string doesn't care, it will take anything. Integers, it can take negative values, good to know. And integers will round it to the nearest integer value, the int function. But I noticed 1.99 also equals 1. So that's good to know. So basically it just erases this and all you're left with is 1 from my understanding. Float, well, you just put in a decimal thing there, so it just returns that. But if you put float 10, it gives you this. Does Python have double? I wonder. We'll find out later. Spam equals input. So variables can take values typed by the user. So that's good to know. Note that if you pass a value to int that it cannot evaluate as an integer, Python will display an error message. So I cannot evaluate as an integer. Invalid literal for int with base 10. Okay, pretty self-explanatory. Text and number equivalence. Okay, so integers and floats can equal to one another, but integer and string obviously can't because this is technically a word. Which makes sense. Hey. Excuse me. This shit's still boring, I'm not gonna lie, but it's something I want to learn. So next, he says he basically goes through the steps that it will take. So you will be plus string int my age plus 1 in a year. So what he put for his age was 4. So he's basically showing that here. And then he shows the next order of operations where he will add 4 with 1. So that happens next, and then you're left with 5, and then 5 is converted into a string because of the str function, as we can see here. And then it's gonna combine these two or concatenate, so you will be 5 plus in a year, and that's gonna concatenate these two, so you're left with you'll be 5 in a year. That makes sense. Which of the following are operators and which are values? So asterisk, minus, slash, plus are operators. Hello, 88 and 5 are values. Which of the following is a variable and which is a string? So the bottom one is a string and spam without the quotations is a variable. Name 3 data types: string, int, float. What is an expression made up of? What do all expressions do? Expressions are made up of an expression and a value, I guess, or a condition and a value. What do all expressions do? Hold up, you know what I should do? I should open a new tab. Okay, not. Darn. I don't think it lets me open 2 of the same. Oh, whoops. Didn't mean to do that. Let's see. Alrighty, give me 1 second. I'll be right back. Okay, I am back. Alrighty. So at the very bottom, or not too far down, are the answers to the questions. So we can go over this. The three data types, integers, floating point numbers, and strings. Okay. What is an expression made up of? What do all expressions do? It's made up of an expression and a value, I guess. Expression is a combination of values and operators. All expressions evaluate to a single value. Okay. 5. The chapter introduces assignment statements like spam equals 10. What is the difference between an expression and a statement? Um, a statement is basically a singular value, like spam is equal to 10, and spam can only equal 10. With expressions, you're combining two statements, I guess, or two values to create an expression, I guess. Hold on, let's see what he said. An expression evaluates to a single value, a statement does not. Okay. What does a variable bacon contain after the following code runs? Uh, bacon equals 20, bacon plus 1. The value is still 20. Does not reassign the value in bacon. That would need an assignment statement. Okay. What would the following two expressions evaluate to? Spam plus spam spam and spam times 3. So spam plus spam spam would just be spam 3 times, and spam times 3 is spam 3 times as well. So they both evaluate to spam 3 times. Yep. Why is eggs a valid variable while variable name while 100 is invalid? Because variables can't start with a number. And what three functions can be used to get the integer, floating point, number, and string version of a value? So int, float, and str. So int, float, and str. Don't worry, I didn't read 10. Why does this expression cause an error? How can you fix it? I have eaten plus 99 plus burritos. You can't concatenate strings with integers, so you have to put the 99 in a str value. And in a str parentheses 99 basically. Yep, so str 99. Why does this expression... Okay, I just did that. Search online for the Python documentation for the len function. It will be on a web page titled built-in functions. Skim the list of the other functions Python has. Look up what the round function does and experiment with it. No. Oh, he just wants me to do that. It's not a question. Uh, sure, why not? For the len function. Python notation len. Round. Return number rounded to n digits precision. Round 1.5 is 2. Okay. Basically what I figured. So if I do round 1.4, that's just gonna be 1. But I do 1.5, that's gonna be 2. Okay. Flow control. So here he discusses how you could use flow diagrams to kind of create a blueprint for your code. And that could be pretty helpful when you're just kind of brainstorming exactly what you're trying to do. So let's just read through this, and hopefully I'll probably remember most of this as I'm reading it. Just give me a second. I was thinking, why the hell do I have my webcam right here when I could just move it to the top? All those video games and their health bars being at the top left make it annoying as hell. I'll bump up my monitor's brightness a little bit. Alrighty. So you know the basics of individual instructions and that a program is just a series of instructions, but programming's real strength isn't just running one instruction after one like a weekend errand list. Based on how expressions evaluate, a program can decide to skip instructions, repeat them, or choose one of several instructions to run. Yep, I'm starting to remember this. So, sorry, I said a flow diagram, but I meant flow chart. Okay. In a flow chart, there's usually more than one way to go from the start to the end. The same is true for lines of code in a computer program. Okay. Boolean values, true equals can't assign to keyword. Oh yeah, so he just talks about so variables can have a true or false, but true itself cannot be a variable, whether it's lowercase or uppercase. And here he just talks about some comparison operators, so equal to, not equal to, less than, greater than, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. Pretty self-explanatory. Boolean. Oh, I missed a couple of stuff. I'm just trying to find where he writes the code, because I've already read most of this, like I mentioned earlier. Whoops. .py. Ha ha ha. Here's the next one. And I remember doing this. Alright, so let's go ahead and create the next vampire.py, and then we do name equals Carol, age equals 3000, if name equals Alice, and then you have to put a colon at the end of if statements, and it automatically indents it for you in VS Code, which is nice. Probably does it in most IDEs. So hi Alice, and then we do an else, oh sorry, else if statement. If age is less than 12, print, God, I can barely type today. You are not Alice, kiddo. Elif age is greater than 2000. Forgot the colon here as well. Print unlike you, Alice is not an undead immortal vampire. Elif age is greater than 100. Print you are not Alice, Granny. So there is a contingency with this, and that's gonna be the next code you create. So if you were to put this statement above this statement, you run into some issues. And I'm just gonna leave it to the book to discuss those. So for now, let's just run what we've written here. 3 vampire. So age is 3000, and it returns us the right statement, which is this one right here. But if we were to make the age 120, let's say, and run it again, it would say you're not Alice, Granny. And then if we were to make it 13, or sorry, 11, you'd get you're not Alice, kiddo. And none of these would matter if name were to equal Alice. So if I am to run this again, but this time name is equal to Alice, you just get hi Alice. Oh. Okay. So he's just gonna go through the flow of it. So at the start, check this. Does name equal Alice? True or false? If true, then just print hi Alice and end this. False, is age less than 12? Then if that's true, then print this. If that isn't true, if age is greater than 2000, then print this. And if that's false as well, if age is greater than 100, then print this. Okay, simple enough. So he talks about it right here. The order of the elif statements does matter. However, oh, is that from? You can view the execution, blah 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 blah. So the order of the elif statements does matter. However, let's rearrange them to introduce a bug. Remember that the rest of the elif clauses are automatically skipped once a true condition has been found. So if you swap around some of the clauses in vampire.py, you run into a problem. Change the code to look like the following and save it as vampire2. So let me copy this, and then I'm gonna X out of this. We'll create vampire2.py, copy this and then X that out, Paste that in. So now it matches his code. And if we were to run that, vampire2.py, it says you're not Alice Granny, even though my age is more than 3,000 or more than 2,000. It doesn't print this one, so this one will never happen basically. Um, that's why the order matters, because we want our program to check for this first, because 100 is how do I'm just gonna let him explain it. um, you can view the execution of this program here, blah 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 blah. You might expect the code to print the string. Unlike you, Alice is not an undead immortal vampire, being that the age is 3000. However, because the age is greater than 100 condition is true, after all, 3000 is greater than 100. The string "you are not Alice Granny" is printed, and the rest of the elif statements are automatically skipped. Remember that at most only one of the clauses will be executed, and for elif statements the order matters. Yep. Good stuff. Optionally, you can have an else statement after the last elif statement. In that case, it is guaranteed that at least one and only one of the clauses will be executed. If the conditions in every if and elif statement are false, then the else clause is executed. Man, tired. Streaming this makes me basically, I guess I forced myself to stream for at least 1 hour, and it's nice to just do that every day, because I'm just imagining if I can get 1 hour of studying in every day, holy shit, that'd be wild. Instead of just cramming everything into one singular day. Okay, good progress so far. We've written 2 basic programs. I'm not gonna count this one because it's just moving around code from the previous program. And here it talks about how this will never happen. He has that little X there. So now we're moving on to while loops. Oop, we're getting too far ahead. Here's a small example program that will keep asking you to type literally your name. Okay, so let's make this up. So this is called your name.py. So name is equal to, I gotta remember what the explanation for just leaving that empty like that was. Well, name to declare the variable, I'm guessing. It's not equal to your name. Oh, you know. Print. Please type your name. And then we do name equals input, and then print thank you. Okay, so let's run that. Please type your name. So if I already just type anything, it will keep on looping. So let me type actual names. Well, never mind. But if I were to just type Zeno, it will end. So that's a while loop. So while condition is, in this case, yeah, so while condition is true, um, keep looping, and as soon as the condition is false, you end the loop. You can view the execution, blah blah blah. First, the program sets a name variable to an empty string. This is so that the name is not equal to your name condition will evaluate to true and the program execution will enter the while loops clause. Okay, cool. So we could always declare the variable in here, but the reason why it was declared up here is so that this clause will return a true statement. There is a shortcut to getting the program execution to break out of while loops clause early. If the execution reaches a break statement, it immediately exits the while loops clause. In code, a break statement simply contains a break keyword. If name is equal to your name, break. Here's a program that does the same thing as the previous program, but it uses a break statement to escape the loop. That just seems like more steps. Let me create that. So your name 2.py. Okay. While true, print. Please type your name. Name equals input. It just shows the versatility of Python. Like you could go about solving many problems in many different ways. Your name, then break, and then print. Thank you. So let's try that. But as soon as I type Zeno, oh shoot. Okay, in this case, your name, it breaks, but let me. There you go. And now that solves that. So that's break statements done. I've also read most of this, so I'm just gonna kind of skim over it and move to the next procedure. Continue statements, like break statements, continue statements are used inside loops. When the program execution reaches a continue statement, the program execution immediately jumps back to the start of the loop and reevaluates the loop's condition. This is also what happens when the execution reaches the end of the loop. Let's use continue to write a program that asks for a name and password. Enter the following code into a new file editor window and save the program. So I remember writing this code, but I think this would be good practice to do this again. Oh, whoops. Okay. So while true, print who are you, name equals, oh god, input. If name is equal to, oops, is not equal to Joe, continue. So it's going to reevaluate the loop from the beginning. Print hello Joe, what is the password? It is fishy. Okay. and then password equals input, and then we do. Okay, so the indentation, I was having trouble with this earlier too. The indentation for the code just doesn't match what I put in, so I'm just gonna stick with what I got right here. Um, or I guess no. If password is equal to swordfish break, and then print access granted. Okay, let's try that. Always forget the colons. Okay, let's try that. Who are you? Zeno ain't gonna work. Will ain't gonna work. So basically, it doesn't move to the print function until this is satisfied. And that's, I guess that's where continue comes in handy. So Joe, hello Joe, what is the password? It is a fish. So what if I put, hold on a second. Why does it still say access granted? Password is equal to input if password is equal to swordfish break. I think you should have a continued thing in there. False. True. Shouldn't say access granted. Um. Okay, now it's working. Man, indentation really matters. So it's a good lesson I'm learning here. So Joe. So if I were to just put something again, it just restarts it. Okay, Joe and swordfish. Access granted. Okay, bet. And this just goes through the steps. Man, this makes it look so complicated, but it's just so simple in this. Truthy and falsy statements. Conditions will consider some values in other data types equivalent to true and false. When used in conditions 0, 0.0, and the empty string are considered false, while all other values are considered true. For example, look at the following program. Name equals blank, while not name, print enter your name, name equals input. How many gets will you add? Number of guests. Be sure to have enough room for all your guests. If user enters a blank string for name, then the while statement's condition will be true. And the program continues to ask for a name. If the value of number of gets is not 0, then the condition is considered to be true. And the program will print a reminder for the user. You could have entered not name is not equal to blank instead of not name. And number of guests is not equal to 0 instead of number of guests. But using the truthy and falsy values can make your code easier to read. Fair enough. Man, I'm proud of myself. I'm just reaching the 1 hour point. Um, I'll go on for a little bit longer because I've done most of this already. Um, so it wasn't too bad. But this is a new function for me, I think. For loops and range function. The while loop keeps looping while its condition is true, which is the reason for its name. Excuse me. Well, what if you want to execute a block of code only a certain number of times? You can do this with a for loop statement and the range function. In code, a for statement looks something like for I in range 5, colon, and includes the following. The for keyword, variable being the I, the in keyword, okay, just whatever they have there. Let's create a new program called 5times.py. So let me create that. Then it is print. My name is for I in range 5. Print Jimmy 5 times plus str I plus. Okay, when I first saw this, so I remember I've done this code before. When I first saw this, it looked janky as hell because of these parentheses. Um, so it's just to enclose the I value in here, which you'll see when I run the code 5 times. And then it just comes up looking like this. Jimmy 5 times here, then the first enclosed parentheses, and then the other side. And then within it, we have this integer value listed as a string each time. Um, so 0 is the first one, and it will go up to 4. So when I first started learning about coding, that was kind of the main thing that I would get confused about, because sometimes, like, let's say just looking at this, you'd be wondering why does it go up to 4, and then you're like, oh, because the first value is always 0. And he discusses that too. Okay, as another for loop example, consider this story about the mathematician Carl Friedrich Gauss. When Gauss was a boy, a teacher wanted to give the class some busy work. The teacher told them to add up all the numbers from 0 to 100. Young Gauss came up with a clever trick to figure out the answer in a few seconds, but you can write a Python program with a for loop to do this calculation for you. Just gonna call it Gauss, because he didn't give me a name for it. Ooh, .py total equals 0 for num in range 101. Total equals total plus num. And obviously the colon, print total. What's the problem? Oh, indentation. Okay. 50-50. The result should be 50-50. When the program first starts, the total variable is set to 0. The for loop then executes total equals total plus num 100 times. 101, but it does it 100 times. By the time the loop has, okay, yes, it's 0 and then 1 to 100, okay. By the time the loop has finished all of its 100 iterations, every integer from 0 to 100 will have been added a total. At the point total is printed to the screen. Even on the slowest computers, the program takes less than a second to complete. Young Gauss figured out a way to solve the problem in seconds. There are 50 pairs of numbers that add up to 101. 1 plus 100, 2 plus 99, 3 plus 98, and so on, until 50 plus 50 ones. Since 50 times 101 is 50-50, the sum of all the numbers from 0 to 100 is 50-50. Damn. Motherfucker, genius. Sheesh. Okay. You can actually use a while loop to do the same thing as a for loop. For loops are just more concise. Let's rewrite 5 times.py to use a while loop equivalent of a for loop. So let's do this. Just not do that. Print my name is I equals 0 while I is less than 5. Print Jimmy 5 times I equals I plus 1 equals I plus 1. Yeah, for loop is more concise, but the result is going to be the same. Yep. Okay. The starting, stopping, and stepping arguments to range. Some functions can be called with multiple arguments. Excuse me. Okay, some functions can be called with multiple arguments separated by a comma, and range is one of them. This lets you change the integer pass to range to follow any sequence of integers, including starting at a number other than 0. For I in range 12 to 16 print I. The first argument will be where the for loops variable starts, and the second argument will be up to, but not including the range to stop at. So 12 to 15. Okay, so 16 is the stopping point, not including 16. The range function can also be called with 3 arguments. The first 2 arguments will be the start and stop values, and the third will be the step argument. The step is the amount that the variable is increased by after each iteration. 0, 10, 2. Okay. So this is stop, this is start, this is stop, and then this is step. So 0 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2, and then 8 plus 2 is 10, so 10 can't be included in there. Cool. Easy enough. The range function is flexible in the sequence of numbers it produces for loops. For example, I never apologize for my puns. The fuck did I miss it? The function is flexible in the sequence of numbers it produces for loops. For example. Yeah, I am tired, jeez. You can even use a negative number for the step argument to make the for loop count down instead of up. 5 minus 1, negative 1. Okay, that's neat. Alrighty. Okay, before I start importing, well, not before I start, but I think I'm gonna end it there and come back to this. Probably not tomorrow because I'm gonna be busy tomorrow, but I'll be coming back to this either on Saturday or Sunday. Well, actually, Sunday is a weekend, so I might be doing some game streaming or something, but we'll see. Um, Let me check something real quick. Ooh, alrighty. Okay, I think I'm gonna call it a day. And well, regardless of whether I had fun with it or not, I'm gonna keep doing this because I just need to, I guess. More than that, I want to. And yeah, I mean, there's nothing more to it. Uh, I'll be back again, like I said, either Sunday or probably Monday. But I might be streaming a lot more often now that I've decided to stream content like this, where I'm learning new things like Python. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the stream, I'm not gonna stop at Python only. I want to study other areas as well, like certain parts of history or maybe philosophy or some other stuff. I'm just hoping that this will be a stepping stone that'll lead me into like, you know, a place of knowledge, I guess. Um, but for today, I think that's good enough. So we made 6 programs today. Obviously, very small programs, nothing too serious, but it's something, you know. Um, so I'm gonna continue with this as time goes, and hopefully I will learn a lot um, within this month of this challenge. But for today, I'm gonna call it a day. If there's anybody watching, thank you for tuning in. I usually stream on, have a little schedule there, Sunday, Monday, and Thursday, 6:30 p.m. EST. Did a stream a little earlier today, so I'm gonna be closing it a little early too. But I'll be streaming a lot more often, so maybe every day, who knows. But for today, peace out.